flag bearer of opposition NPP describes President Mahama's State of the Nation address as an embarrassing display of propaganda, questioning what the governing party has described as its key achievements.
I joined the president to celebrate with his 16 success stories. Unfortunately, their stories do not constitute the reality that is present-day Ghana.
Meanwhile, the party is also pushing for the resignation of the Bank of Ghana governor over the controversial DKM microfinance saga.
Once you say that they are responsible, the question I'm asking is, if you say they are responsible, what are you doing? You cannot say because Bank of Ghana is operationally independent, so when they mess up, you can't do anything. That's not right. They should follow up. In fact, we are calling in Parliament the governor, I think tomorrow, to come and give us an account.
Tonight, we subject the claims of the largest opposition parties to some rigorous scrutiny and get a response from government and the NDC. This is today's big story with me, Kwache Afreniama. The flag bearer of the largest opposition party, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, has torn to shreds the 2016 State of the Nation address presented by President John Mahama in Parliament last week. The president, in his nearly 4-hour presentation, touted the achievements of his government in all areas of the economy. However, the three-time flag bearer of the NPP in an address today criticized the president for failing to admit the nation is in a crisis.
Ghana is now a country at high risk of debt distress. Government has increased the debt stock from 9.5 billion Ghana cedis in 2008 to some 99 billion cedis currently. In dollar terms, this NDC government has therefore borrowed some 37 billion United States dollars in 7 years. In contrast, President Kwame Nkrumah borrowed the equivalent of some $2.5 billion between 1957 and 1966. And President Kufuor borrowed some $5 billion between 2001 and 2009. This NDC government has therefore borrowed some 5 times the amount borrowed by Nkrumah and Kufuor put together. Reckless borrowing by the Mahama government has led us to a debt stock that is 73% of GDP, which is beyond the threshold of debt sustainability. Did the president not have any evidence of this when he presented the State of the Nation address? Not surprisingly, we are now being charged interest rates that will keep generations of Ghanaians impoverished. Last year, interest payments amounted to more than 9.6 billion cedis. That figure was more than the total debt stock of 9.5 billion in 2008 at the end of President Kufuor's term. I recall in 2008, candidate Mahama lampooning the Kufuor government for excessive borrowing. To put the interest payments on the debt in context, we should note that the entire allocations in the 2016 budget to critical ministries, such as the Ministries of Road and Highways, Trade and Industry, Food and Agriculture, Water Resources, Works and Housing, Youth and Sports, and Transport, amounted to a total of 2.1 billion cedis. Interest payment in 2016 of 10.5 billion cedis would be 5 times what was allocated to these 6 key ministries combined. In 2015, the 9.6 billion allocated to interest payment on the debt stock was about 3.4 times the entire allocations to the 6 key ministries listed above. The NDC in 2012 promised to increase installed power generation capacity from 2,443 megawatts to 5,000 megawatts by 2016. The installed capacity was not to be predicated on emergency power plants. The current 800 megawatts, which the President speaks of, is today delivered by emergency power plants, which are costing the consumers a fortune. They are not a permanent solution to our power generation challenge. Additionally, the government has suppressed demand to mines and bulk power demanders like Valco, created the impression that they've boosted supply to meet demand. The President recounts the story of Shirazu Ishaku, the vulcanizer at the Fulfulso Junction, whose life has been transformed dramatically by the extension of electricity to his town. It is important to state, though, that the funding for this SHEP 3 project, otherwise known as Wealthy Lemons project, from which Fulfulso benefit, was secured by the previous NPP government. Lawsuits. Apart from the emergency plans which are costing the taxpayer a fortune, the government has failed to deliver on its promise. As a result of these questionable deals, electricity tariffs have been increased to exorbitant levels. Consumers are now faced with vanishing power credits and illegal charges for electricity. The President wants to give him credit for resolving Bumso, which was caused by economic and financial mismanagement of his own government. So how can you expect credit for resolving a problem that you have caused, which has inflicted such a high cost on the nation?
Nana Akufo-Addo also questioned the failure of the President to tackle issues he describes as, quote, critical.
I cannot recall in recent times anything that has so agitated Ghanaians as the importation of the 2 Guantanamo ex-detainees into our country. And yet the President, in his State of the Nation address, chose to dismiss this issue by claiming that his foreign minister had addressed the subject when she appeared before a closed-door session of Parliament, when in fact she did not shed any light on the matter. The President chose to ignore the widespread genuine anxiety amongst our people in much the same way as he chose to ignore the laws of the land in negotiating the agreement with the U.S. government. We insist that this belongs firmly to the realms of international affairs, and the conduct ought to have been in consonance with the accepted principles of international law and diplomacy in a manner consistent with the national interests of Ghana as demanded by the Constitution of the Republic. There are serious concerns about what has been termed the spy bill, but the President chose to make no mention of it. Officially, the Interception of Postal Packets and Telecommunication Messages Bill 2015 is intended to intercept postal packets, telephone, and other electronic or cyberspace communications for the purposes of protecting national security and fighting crime. Essentially, this bill gives the state unfettered discretionary access to the private correspondence of individuals. It poses potentially a major threat to individual freedom of expression and privacy. This law should not be passed, and the minority has already signaled its opposition to the bill in Parliament. The irony is that the Right to Information Bill, which on the other hand will rather enhance individual freedoms and good governance by providing further access to public information, all in the spirit of transparency and accountability, has rather been put on the back burner. Obviously, it is not one that excites the President because it provides sunshine on corrupt practices.
So that was the flag bearer of the NPP, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. We'll hear shortly from the Deputy General Secretary of the governing party, that's the NDC, George Lawson. But first, President Mahama has been commenting on this matter on his Facebook wall. This is exactly what he says, and I quote, "I have always believed in the tremendous power that exists within every single Ghanaian, the power to influence the course of events and the power to shape the future of this great nation of ours. It is with this belief that I took office as president 4 years ago, and it is with this same belief that last week I delivered my State of the Nation address." And the second paragraph of this statement by President John Mahama continues by saying that the opposition is exercising its democratic right to criticize, which is a proof that we are living in a healthy democracy. However, it would be wrong to try to minimize our achievements and the depth of Ghana's transformation in the last 3 years. For me as president, the last 3 years are a story of hope, a hope shared by so many of us. This is because of what we have seen, we've been able to achieve so far for all of us, and it was made possible only through the continuous participation of all of us. And President Mahama continues by saying on his Facebook wall that the most important fact about the transformative stories I shared last week, the most fundamental truth about them is that they are not my achievements. They are, quote, our achievements. They are Ghana's achievements. Step by step, he says, we built something important, something that lays the foundation for irreversible improvements in the lives of all of us. We worked hard every day. We kept the faith. We kept moving forward. This is how we achieved this. Together, we are changing lives one individual at a time. And these are the achievements, it says in exclamation. The last paragraph of this statement says, "This is why I'll keep talking about them, because when I talk about them, then I am honoring each and every one of you." So that's those were extras of a statement put on President John Mahama's Facebook wall, responding directly to the statement by Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, flag bearer of the NPP. As I mentioned earlier, we have on the line Deputy General Secretary of the NDC, George Lawson, on the line for some responses. Mr. Lawson, thanks for joining us on today's big story. First, your response to what Nana Addo says of the president's presentation, that it was simply an embarrassing display of propaganda. Mr. Lawson? All right, it seems we lost Mr. George Lawson on the line, but some of the key questions we'll be asking him, of course, that comment by the flag bearer of the NPP, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, that this was simply what he terms as an embarrassing display of propaganda. Nana Addo Akufo-Addo also quoted, in fact, mentioned some of the key projects that the president said that they were undertaking, that they had already started, somewhere nearing completion and all that. The Hohoi Town roads, for example, Nana Akufo-Addo says those roads, the people in the area themselves have testified that they were constructed under the erstwhile Kufuor administration. We'll also be speaking to the spokesperson, one of the three spokespersons of Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, lawyer Yao Boabeng Asamoah, for some responses to the issues that the NDC will be raising to this issue. Of course, I told you about the direct response of President Mahama on this issue, saying that he feels the NPP is simply trying to reduce the achievements that his government has chalked over the past 3 years heading into this very crucial election. In fact, this event was attended, as you may have seen in the shots there, by key members, all those who matter in the NPP. Now, talking about the top hierarchy, aside the flag bearer himself, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, you had Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia at this press briefing. You had the party's chairman, Dr. Mr. Freddie Blair himself was there as well. But now we can listen, just before we speak to the Deputy General Secretary of the NDC, George Lawson, we can hear from the minority spokesperson on finance, Anthony Akotose, who says that the Bank of Ghana governor must step down following the controversial DKM saga.
Once you say that they are responsible, the question I'm asking is, if you say they are responsible, what are you doing? You cannot say because Bank of Ghana is operationally independent. So when they mess up, you can't do anything. That's not right. They should follow up. In fact, we are calling in Parliament the governor, I think, tomorrow to come and give us an account. Right now, if I ask you how many people are involved, can you tell me?
But wouldn't it be fair for the president to blame the Bank of Ghana?
No, he blamed the Bank of Ghana, but you don't stop there. You blame it and it's over. If you hire me to do a job and I'm not performing, what do? You keep me there?
Well, some feel that at this point, and I was reading following some comments on social media, for example, some believe that the governor should step down.
Well, that's why he's the president who appointed him.
You think he should go there directly?
If I were the governor, I would have stepped down. If I were the governor. Because for the president to come to public, you see, the central bank's mystery is just that we must have confidence. But if our president comes publicly and says, you didn't do a good job, you shouldn't wait to be fired. You should go. Yes.
So it would be fair to assert that you believe the Bank of Ghana governor should step down?
I think if I were the governor, let me put it that way.
What else should the president do?
No, you hire me to do a job. You say, I'm not doing the job. What do? You just say, oh, you haven't done your job, but stay there.
So the point is that failure of the Bank of Ghana governor to say step down, the president should take that action.
That's why he's the executive president. I hired you to do a job. You have come out publicly to say I've messed up. Then that's it. And if he's going to do it, he needs to let people know quick, because you can't let it hang for too long.
Okay, so that was Minority Spokesperson on Finance, Dr. Anthony Osei, pushing for the Bank of Ghana governor to step down. We'll speak shortly to the Deputy General Secretary of the NDC, George Lawson, but join us on the line for some analysis on all that is happening. The NPP's presentation following the President's speech in Parliament last week is a governance aspect. I understand we have George Lawson, Deputy General Secretary of the NPP, on the line. Thankfully, Mr. Lawson, thanks for joining us on today's Big Story. I'm wondering what you make of Nanado's comments that the President's presentation was simply an embarrassing display of propaganda.
Thank you very much. His is more embarrassing than a negative propaganda. Joseph Goebbels' propaganda. The Hitler group propaganda, that is hate. He made mention of so many things that are unfounded, that cannot hold water. He called the administration or the president incompetent. And who can be incompetent than him? He was an attorney general. He went to court, and he said the president versus Chatusikata. A lawyer of your caliber go to court and present this to court? Amen. And you call the president incompetent, and you are not. You are competent. I mean,
Mr. Lawson, according to Nana Akufo-Addo, some of the key projects the president either mentioned that they've been completed or work is ongoing. Your checks have found that they are untrue. For example, he mentions the Hohoi town roads, which he says the NPP itself constructed under the Akufo administration.
Thank you very much. Hohoi town road, it's an ongoing. It's when you start from Esikuma journey. The road is ongoing up to Hohoi. They finished portions of it. If you look at the Dambai side, that has been finished. And they started from the Esikuma junction to Peki, and it's going. Contractors are on site. They left and they've come back, and it's ongoing. So he said those projects are ongoing, and there's evidence to that effect. There's evidence to that effect that contractors are on site.
Well, Mr. Lawson, still on these roads and the issues that President Mahama mentioned in his State of the Nation address, which Nanado makes mention to. For example, the Golokati-Hohoi road, our own checks here reveal that that road was constructed under the NPP government. President Mahama mentioned it as one of his achievements. It was ongoing.
Yeah, but the fact is, it's part of the Eastern, what I know, at the Eastern Corridor Road. They are redoing all those roads. Those roads are all being reconstructed to the northern region. All those roads are being reconstructed.
Well,
so they're ongoing. So he made mention of some that have been completed Some are
Well, our
ongoing.
checks reveal
Some
no
are
work is
about to.
taking
I
place
don't
there
know
at the
whether-
moment.
Pardon?
Our checks reveal nothing is happening there at the moment. You
Yeah, but
mentioned
they
that
are
work is
coming
ongoing.
They started from Esikuma Junction. They've gone finish the Peki side. They are going. It's ongoing. Contractors left side, they come back to side. And they want to go. I traveled on that road about 2 weeks ago. And the contractors are on the side. They've not gotten to the Hobboy side. They've not gotten to the Hobboy side.
Well, again,
so it's an ongoing thing.
Well, again, Mr. Lawson, no mention of the key critical, what Nanado describes as critical national issues like DKM, the water challenges in the Sawama Dredgery, the Guantanamo Bay detainee saga was mentioned by the president in his State of the Nation address. Nanado is questioning that.
Thank you very much. The Guantanamo Bay, Nanado was briefed. You should tell us what he told the Americans. He was briefed in his residence or at his residence, one-on-one. He should tell us what he told the Americans.
Now, Mr. Lawson, the issue here is that this is a matter that has generated public discussion, a matter that has generated a lot of controversy over the past few weeks. The president failed to mention it at all, talk about it, address it, and other issues, the DKM saga, he didn't make mention of it.
Yeah, the DKM saga, the president has no hand in that. They are assemblymen there.
It's an issue of national interest.
They are DCs, so they should handle those things. Those things happen at a district level or constituency level or regional level.
The microfinance saga has generated national attention. You think the president was right not to have tackled it because the local issue?
The president has already initiated a move. The regional Security Council, the regional administrator, all those things have gotten involved. They've gone and the Bank of Ghana and all those. They are involved, and it's an ongoing thing. And investigations are ongoing to ascertain what actually happened. They've frozen accounts of the owners of those 419 microfinance organizations and all that. So, I mean, that's for one, if I were to be the president, it will not be part of the State of the Nation.
Hold the line for me, Mr. Joy Lawson, because governance expert Dr. Eric Odrosai joins us on the line. I want to pick his views on some of the issues you're justifying. Doc, thanks for joining us on today's Big Story. The NPP has described the President's State of the Nation address presentation as simply propaganda.
Well, let me say good evening to your listeners. That is the more reason why I have, from the one, indicated that as a country, we need a legislative framework to define the minimum content of a President's State of the Nation address. Because when you listen to the NPP today, they are looking at what the president could not do within the period of reporting. The president also highlighted what he's been able to do within the period under review. Where does it leave us as a country? If we were to have this minimum standard in terms of reporting, in terms of coming out with the state of the nation, we wouldn't have been where we are today. So going forward, we still need another party or a group of people to look at what the president has presented and what the NPP presented today and tell us the true state of the nation.
A group of people from where?
Any group of people within Ghana should be able to do that.
What, civil society?
Civil society, I'm calling on civil society to come in at this stage. The educational institutions, the universities are also there. Because the president has presented what he's been able to do. The NPP are also highlighting on what the president was not able to do. The question then is, where does it leave us as a nation?
I'm wondering what you make of this. One of the points that Nanado make, what he describes as the president's failure to touch on some really critical national issues like the Gitmo detainees in this country, the two of them, and DKM saga, for example. What do you make of that?
For the DKM saga, I think the president touched on it. But my issue would have to do with the presence of the two ex-Guantanamo bays in the country. That I was also expecting the president to have touched on it because it borders on both internal and external security. And that is not the only one. I was also expecting the president to have touched on the Fulani menace as well as touching on the 40-year long-term development plan. I'm sure this is a very good move, but then where are we in terms of developing this long-term plan? But I think that going forward in future, the president can give us a baseline of where he met Ghana or where he inherited as at February 26th last year, what he has been able to do to bring Ghana to this level, what he was not able to do, particularly within the period, his challenges, and going forward, what he can do to move Ghana to another level. If he has structured his presentation like that, what the NPP has presented today would not be part of the equation at all. But I think the bit that is missing is that the president did not give us a baseline. The president did not also tell us where what he has been able to do brings us to. So it makes it difficult for one to establish the exact state of the nation as of today. So that is the bit I'm a little bit worried about.
And finally, before you leave us, there was also talk by the flag bearer of the NPP about the fact that with many of these corruption cases we've heard of, is the media, civil society, and the minority in parliament that have unraveled them. Talk about JIDA, SADA, and so government does not really deserve any commendation for that. It's what it calls a fight against corruption.
You know, corruption can only be covered if you give out information. So I think that what the civil society organizations did was to give out the information for the security agencies who are acting on behalf of government to act. So I don't want to believe that the government cannot take credit for it. But what we need to do is that all of us will have to join the crusade. Yes, I can blame the government for not taking active action. Some of them can be prevented. We shouldn't always wait for those things to happen before we come in to do a firefighting approach. So I think, yes, it is true that the government acted, but the government was not quick in acting in terms of the issues of corruption. And then again, in terms of prosecuting, I think the government has also been slow in getting those who have been found culpable to be properly prosecuted, and that I call on the government to hasten the process of prosecuting such people.
Very well. That was governance expert Dr. Eric Odrosai. I'll take the final word from you, Mr. Lawson, in 3 seconds.
Yes, thank you very much. The Guantanamo Bay, Nando was brave. After government was brave, he was brave in his house, one-on-one. So you think he has no moral authority to comment on this issue? Thank you very much. That was Deputy General Secretary of the NDC. Earlier I had governance expert Dr. Eric Odrosai. That will be it for today's big story. My name is Kwachi Afreniama, but don't switch off us yet, because up next is the long-awaited Joy News Hotline documentary, Children of the Pits, by my colleague Latif Idris. Stay tuned.
Do you know why Alomo Bitters is renowned as the spirit of Africa? That's